Hello again, everybody. I'm glad you're back, and I'm glad to be back. We're continuing our stories about the last few hours that Jesus was that Jesus went through leading up to his death. And these are really kind of key parts of his life, and it's a lot of things happened in a really short time. And we talked yesterday about how he shared a last meal with his friends and all that he told them during it, and a lot of things that happened while the meal was going on. Today's story is about what happened right afterward. And it goes like this. After the Last Supper, Jesus and his disciples went to a garden to pray. Do you have a place where you go if you want to talk to God? A place that's pretty much quiet, or where you can concentrate, or where people know that that's your place? It's good to have something like that. It doesn't have to be a garden, although a garden is terrific, and that seems to have been a very special place for Jesus. It could be church. That's always something. Even though sometimes the doors are locked, if somebody's in, there are lots of times people knock on the door and they say, would it be okay if I came in and prayed for a while, or just sat? And people do that, and that's great. That's wonderful. Sometimes people have a favorite tree. Like kids I've known have had a spot in a tree where they like to go and sit and think. All of those are good things. Well, for Jesus, it was this garden, and it was called Gethsemane, was the name of the place. And he took 3 of his disciples with him, Peter and James and John, because he knew he was facing a lot of difficulties, and he wanted his friends to come and sort of be there for him, not right with them while he prayed, but off to the side where he knew where they were and they knew where he was. Here's a picture. You see, a lot of artists have tried to draw what they thought it looked like, and this is Jesus. You can see he's praying, and off in the background you see James and John and Peter, but they don't look like they're praying. They look like they're doing something else. What do you think it was? We'll get back to that. Jesus found a quiet corner of the garden where he could be alone to pray. And while Jesus prayed, his disciples, here it is, they fell asleep. Jesus knew many sad things were about to happen. He also knew that the disciples would have to remain strong. They would need to remember all the lessons that he had taught them. So Jesus prayed. He prayed for them. He said, Father, I want people to know you and your love as I do. I've taught them about you and your ways. I know what you have planned for me. After he finished praying, he woke up the disciples. Why are you sleeping? He said. Please stay awake. And they would need to stay awake because something really troubling was about to happen. Here's a picture. What do you see in the picture? I see Jesus, and I see some soldiers, and it looks like they're running up toward him, and in the background there's somebody who's holding a torch, and in the middle there's somebody who's looks like he's giving Jesus a hug, maybe kiss him on the cheek. What Jesus saw when he went and called his disciples and woke them up was that Jesus saw Judas walking toward him, and he was with a group of soldiers. And Judas whispered to the soldiers, the one I kiss will be Jesus. He's the one you want. Remember that they paid him money to point Jesus out? This is how he did it. Judas began walking toward Jesus. He was surprised when Jesus asked, Judas, are you going to betray me with a kiss? Jesus already knew what was going to happen. He knew Judas was going to betray him. And it hurt. And it hurt even more that he did it while he looked like he was being nice. When the disciples saw what was happening, they tried to fight the soldiers, but Jesus told them, "Do not fight." The soldiers grabbed Jesus, and the disciples, they ran away. The soldiers brought Jesus in front of an angry group of the temple leaders, the leaders who wanted to get rid of him. Jesus must die, the leaders said, because he says he's the Son of God, and because he says he's a king. The emperor will kill us if we don't put him to death. And that was kind of the end of things, and that end of that part of the story. After that, we don't hear much about anything except what happened to Jesus. They hung him on a cross, and they left him there to die. Oh, a lot of things happened in between. They beat him up pretty badly, and they made fun of him, and they tried to make him feel as awful as they could before they left him on a cross. After Jesus died, there was a very good man whose name was Joseph, and he took Jesus' body. Joseph very lovingly wrapped the body in a clean linen cloth, and then he placed the body in a small cave called a tomb. A tomb means like a grave, and it was cut from rock. Everybody watched as Jesus' body was placed in the tomb. A stone was rolled in front to cover the mouth of the tomb, and the temple leaders made some guards stand in front of the tomb to keep watch. And then everybody else went away. That was a very short version of a very, very detailed story as the Bible tells it. And the details are pretty rough. Jesus got hurt very badly. But all the way through it, he never let hate take over. He never tried to get even with anybody who was involved in any of it. He knew that his friends were scared and had run because they were scared, not because they didn't care about him. His mother stayed around. One of his best friends, John, managed to stay with her for a while, and they watched what happened. But at the very end, even when he was having trouble breathing, Jesus still managed to pray to God and say, "Forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing." And to the very end, Jesus was loving and forgiving, and never forgot the people around him, or you, or me, all of us. That was something that only he could do. And it was the best thing that ever was done for anybody. All of us. Ever. And that's where I'm going to stop the story tonight. And we'll pick it up tomorrow. Because believe it or not, the story doesn't stop there. And that's part of the good thing. Why we call it the good news. And I'll say good night.